just, I don't know. It wasn't what I wanted. I was kind of an asshole in school. I was the girl in class who, the middle-aged white teacher, male, was giving us a list of books that we were to read, and I would raise my hand and be like, how come there's no African American writers? And why isn't there anything by anyone here that's gay? I was kind of that annoying pain in the ass girl in class with her hand up who was trying to answer every single question and was trying to make the teacher look bad. I mean, it made me upset when I felt like there was a sort of biased approach to the way I was being educated, and I'm from New York, so I guess...
Your parents must have been beside themselves when you dropped out of
Oh,
Tisch.
my mother was... When they took me out to dinner on my 19th birthday, and I'll never forget it, my mother was like, happy birthday, I'm leaving school. What's wrong with you?
And what gave you the strength to rebel against your parents? In other words... Like, I'm like a mama's boy. If my mother started yelling at me and telling me I had to stay in college, I would have just shit my pants. I mean, what gave you the strength?
Why do I not entirely believe you?
No, he's telling you the truth.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I think that takes a lot of balls to quit school and say, I'm going to go make it on my own.
Well, but maybe that's why you rebelled later.
Maybe
because you didn't stand your ground earlier. I mean, I don't know.
I didn't.
I did never reviewed it as rebellion, ever. I just was like, Mom, I don't like school. And, and my dad said, you've got 1 year to make something happen, and I'm not paying for shit. And I said,
right.
Great. I said, I don't want anything. 1 year, got it. And I swear, this sounds crazy. My 19th birthday, exactly 1 year later, I got a production deal from a producer.
Well, yeah, but did it pay you? How did you pay your bills? Like when your father says, if you're not going to...
I waitressed.
You did?
I waitressed. I worked at a music publishing company for nothing, but
right.
I, would, run around in my outfits and be like, hello, and leave my demos underneath people's doors.
So when people think you had it easy because you're so young and you've had tremendous success, it hasn't been easy. I mean, you took a big risk in life. People don't understand that. You took chances. You dropped out of college, you did the waitress thing, you did all that, and you took a lot of chances.
And I paid for it all by myself.
Isn't it sort of sad? I bet you met a lot of people who are still in that same position. They're waiting to make it.
Well...
How do you know when you really have it?
You know what? You know when you really have it? When you've got the nerve. Because I used to... And this is, I guess would be my advice to anyone that is, living in a city and wants to make it and is doing it the way that I did it. The worst thing that can happen is when you're hanging out with... I used to hang out with buddies at the bar, and I'd say, how's everything going? And they'd say, oh, I'm in a band. And I'd say, oh, when's your next show? And they'd say, we haven't played yet. Or, oh, you got any songs? Oh, well, we're still working on them.
Right.
It's sort of like that fear of rejection. So you never really go anywhere.
Right.
And I was never afraid of being rejected, as I sort of got off on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh yeah, you think I can't do it? I'll fucking show you. Me and my high heels are going to walk all over this stage and bring in 80 people.
You can't be sort of theoretically thinking about this career. You've got to go tackle it. But what I'm saying is it's so sad that there are so many people, I'm sure you met a million of them, who have absolutely no talent, and yet they're living the lifestyle, and they're waiting for this big break, and you know that it's never going to come.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, I think talent is subjective. I think that once you harness what you're good at, you can create yourself.
You probably saw a lot of talented people who aren't going anywhere.
Because they don't have that motivation.
Well, but there's also, I mean, I've seen it, you don't know how many times I have seen, as a songwriter, such talented singers get the biggest heads in the world after recording in one studio session with one big producer, and they go nowhere. And they go nowhere because they think that they deserve or are entitled to a certain lifestyle because they have a record deal. And Jimmy Iovine, who I love more than anything, who's he's my boss, and Vincent Herbert, who's my other boss. Their favorite and least favorite thing about me is I asked them to pick me up, and they're like, I don't even want to go to your neighborhood.
Do they get any input when you decide you're going to come out with a record? Does Jimmy Iovine get any input into it, or are you at this point you don't want to hear from them? You're
Of
saying,
course I want their... It's Jimmy Iovine.
So what?
He produced Fleetwood Mac.
but he's also produced Bombs too, right? And so you've got to be your own best critic, and you have to be your own best
Well,
judge.
look, at the end of the day, I wrote all the music myself.
Right.
Always. I co-produce everything I do. I make it. I think it's great. If you know, and I always say, look, I'm in touch with what's going on.
Right.
I am constantly researching and being kept up to date for myself on what's happening in the dance community. What's
How do you
happening
research that? Do you go to clubs like constantly and see what kids are
I
doing?
got a lot of friends that are DJs.
Right.
You know, and we just talk, and I listen to music. And
Constantly. It's a job now, music.
yeah,
for you.
and it's also, working with different technology, and there's, lots of new things that are coming out with.
Do you feel competitive though? Do you hear certain records and then go, "Oh man, I should have made that record. I can't stand this. Why didn't I think of that?" Can music become such a job that it fills you with dread?
No, it's more dreadful when people rip you apart. I mean, listen, it's not easy
hard.
when you put your soul into something and the world rips it apart.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, there's a really very big difference between what people say about you and what people actually do about you.
Does it rip you apart because you're saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm not even into the money in this thing. I actually genuinely want to make people feel good."
Hell fucking yeah. And,
Right.
and my
you say,
favorite
"What's
is
wrong
when
with
people
that?"
go, "Oh, it's not personal." And I'm like, how the hell is it not personal? I
The
spent
songs
2
are
years
personal.
in my life putting everything into
And you're
this.
talking about me.
It's personal.
Is putting out a new record like putting out a movie in a sense that like you sit there and wait for the box office returns? Do you sit and go,
No.
"Tell me what sounds
It
good"?
is like spreading my legs and taking a photograph of my vagina and putting it on the internet and asking people what they think.
Right. In
That
other words,
is what it is
you're
like.
putting yourself out there for everyone's approval.
But does it matter to you what the critics say, or is it really about the little monsters and how they respond
For
to?
me, it's all about the fans loving it.
Mm-hmm.
And, especially with this album, I was prepared for lots of different things. I'm a huge David Bowie fan.
Right.
Massive David Bowie fan. And I would say that I, think of him on a daily basis in terms of what he went through, how he did things.
I love him.
Listen,
But he was at his best when it was Ziggy Stardust and all that,
but
right?
listen,
Yeah.
after Ziggy Stardust went away, his fans went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They actually went berserk. They wanted him back. And they felt like Ziggy Stardust had gone away. When really, he didn't. He just was becoming
Something else.
something else, and he was having an artistic rebirth. So I'm
Right.
not saying I'm not Ziggy anymore. I just was prepared for this is going to be a transition.
Will Lady Gaga go away?
No, I'm always going to be Gaga.
Maybe not.
But maybe all the trappings will go away. Maybe Gaga starts to dress differently. Gaga is going to change as an artist.
Of course, listen,
Gaga
I'm-
might become Stephanie.
Well, I am Stephanie.
I don't know anymore. I'm confused.
No, I am, but I am.
Right.
If you were to call me Stephanie, on or off the radio, I'm not going to be like, Howard, you're a dick. It's like
Right.
that's also my name too.
But you like being Gaga. It feels better to you. It
Well,
fits.
it's just a little bit of a psychological warfare on you, and people are calling you 7 different things.
Your mother won't call you Gaga or your father,
Yes,
right?
they do.
They do?
Yes, they do, and they
said-
call me both. They call me. Well, Gaga is also when they're mad at me. Okay, Gaga.
But wait a second. When did that transition occur that your parents bought into Gaga as opposed to Stephanie?
It wasn't a buy-in as much as they were so happy that I had finally found a happy place in my life because I was so depressed.
Right.
I didn't know who the hell I was. I didn't identify with anything about my school. I didn't understand why am I obsessed with this kind of music, but none of my friends get it, and I get made fun of all the time. And I finally became...
And now you're accepted.
Yeah, well, I finally became brave enough to buy the shoes I want to wear,
Right.
and buy the clothes I want to wear, and wear a wig on my head, and be myself. And now it's like my mother when she calls me Gaga, or when my dad says, it's so funny when my dad had his heart surgery. That was one of the first times that I hadn't really cared about how I looked.
Right.
And I can't even remember. I remember I just wore his sweater for 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
I wore his sweater and some jeans and some sneakers. and I remember, and I was crying.